ABC General Hospital spoilers for Monday, March 3 reveal that Liesl has never accepted the idea that some love stories are meant to end, especially not the one she believes still binds Nathan and Maxie together beneath layers of pride, distraction, and wounded history. In her mind, what they shared was not temporary passion, but something elemental, forged through danger, sacrifice, and emotional extremes that no comfortable relationship could ever replicate. Watching Nathan drift toward Lulu and Maxie lean into the quiet steadiness of Spinelli feels to Liesl like witnessing a tragic misalignment of destiny. She does not see growth, she sees compromise. She does not see healing, she sees avoidance. And so, quietly and deliberately, she begins to intervene. Liesl convinces herself that she is not manipulating events but restoring balance, nudging two hearts back toward the truth they are too afraid to confront. She studies timing, proximity, vulnerability. She ensures that Nathan and Maxie cross paths at moments charged with nostalgia, when defenses are low and memories are sharp. A shared glance lingers longer than it should. An unfinished sentence hangs in the air. A reminder of what they survived together slips into conversation like an echo that refuses to fade. At the same time, she subtly destabilizes the new bonds forming around them. Lulu begins to sense distance in Nathan's eyes, a hesitation that did not exist before. She feels the subtle shift, but cannot pinpoint its origin, and uncertainty begins to erode her confidence. Spinelli notices Maxie growing restless, caught between gratitude for his unwavering devotion and a stirring emotional undercurrent she cannot fully silence. Liesl's adjustments do not explode outward. They tighten inward, creating emotional claustrophobia that none of them are prepared to navigate. The more she pushes, the more tension builds. Nathan feels torn without fully understanding why. He tells himself he has moved forward, yet old feelings resurface with a force that feels almost intrusive. Maxie, confronted with memories she thought she had sealed away, questions whether security is enough or whether she has unfinished emotional business that refuses to disappear. Liesl watches all of this with fierce conviction, believing temporary chaos is a necessary step toward permanent reunion. But emotional engineering rarely unfolds according to plan. Doubt begins to breed suspicion. Lulu senses she is not competing with another woman, but with a history she cannot rewrite. Spinelli, perceptive and wounded, starts to wonder if he is merely a placeholder for a love that never truly died. If the truth of Liesl's interference surfaces, the fallout could be devastating. Maxie may feel betrayed, not protected. Nathan may feel manipulated, not guided. Trust, once fractured, rarely returns intact. Yet Liesl presses on, convinced that she understands their hearts better than they do. In trying to force destiny, she risks destroying it. And as emotions intensify, what began as a calculated attempt to reunite two former lovers threatens to spiral into fractured relationships, broken loyalties, and irreversible consequences. In Port Charles, love is never simple, but when someone like Liesl decides to rewrite it, the ripple effects can turn longing into chaos and hope into heartbreak. Laura can feel the pressure tightening with each passing day, not in explosive confrontations, but in subtle, relentless waves that never quite recede. Sidwell has mastered the art of control without spectacle. He does not storm into rooms or issue public ultimatums. Instead, he applies quiet leverage, the kind that seeps into decisions before they are even made. Laura senses it in the pauses before her staff speaks, in the carefully worded reports placed on her desk, in the political shifts that seem too coordinated to be accidental. The weight of it exhausts her because it is constant. There is no dramatic battle to fight, no single moment of defiance to reclaim power. There is only the steady awareness that she is operating within boundaries someone else has drawn. Watching Willow move forward under Sidwell's influence intensifies that exhaustion. Each speech Willow delivers carries a tone that feels rehearsed beyond political polish. Each policy initiative aligns too neatly with Sidwell's long-term positioning. Laura cannot publicly accuse Willow without evidence, yet privately she sees the pattern forming like a web tightening around the city. The tragedy is that Willow may not even recognize the depth of the manipulation. To the public, she appears composed, confident, stepping boldly into leadership. To Laura, she looks like someone walking carefully along a path that was chosen for her long before she realized she was on it. This realization gnaws at Laura's conscience because she knows her earlier concessions created space for Sidwell's expansion. Every compromise made under pressure now echoes louder. She wonders whether resisting harder would have changed the trajectory, whether silence in one moment allowed domination in the next. That doubt becomes its own haunting presence, following her through City Hall, through community events, through every handshake and forced smile. Meanwhile, the citizens of Port Charles are beginning to feel the shift in ways that are harder to quantify but impossible to ignore. There is a new atmosphere in the air, a cautiousness in conversations about local government, an undercurrent of suspicion about sudden regulatory changes and unexpected investigations. Small business owners whisper about new oversight measures. Community leaders question funding reallocations that seem strategically timed. It is not open panic, but it is unease, and unease spreads quickly in a town with as much history as Port Charles. Laura has always served as a stabilizing figure, someone whose integrity provided reassurance even during crises. Now, she feels that role slipping through her fingers. The exhaustion she carries is not merely physical, it is moral. She is fighting to preserve the soul of the city while being forced to operate within a framework subtly reshaped by someone who thrives on strategic domination. Sidwell's true power lies not just in blackmail or manipulation, but in normalization. He wants control to feel routine, inevitable, unremarkable. He wants the public to accept shifts as progress, to see influence as leadership, to mistake coercion for efficiency. That is what terrifies Laura most. Open tyranny can be confronted. Quiet recalibration of power is far more difficult to dismantle. She sees how carefully he positions himself, never overexposed, never fully accountable, always one step removed from the visible consequences. Willow becomes the face of decisions, while Sidwell remains the architect behind them. Laura understands that breaking free will require more than confrontation. It will require strategy equal to his own. Yet the longer she operates under his shadow, the more isolated she feels. Allies grow cautious. Conversations become guarded. Even Sunny's encouragement cannot fully erase the sense that she is standing on unstable ground. Port Charles is not yet an open crisis, but it is drifting towards something darker. Laura feels the shift like a storm, building offshore distant enough to deny, close enough to feel in the air. And the haunting truth she cannot escape is that if she fails to disrupt Sidwell's control soon, the city may not recognize when the line between leadership and manipulation has permanently blurred. Jason refuses to step away from the tightening web surrounding Britt. For him, this is no longer just about loyalty or unfinished feelings, it is about control. Control over information, over timing, over the next move before Cullum can anticipate it. Every step Jason takes now is calculated, quiet, deliberate. He knows that rushing in blindly would only accelerate the danger, and yet standing still is not an option. Britt is at the center of something darker, something far more clinical and ruthless than the usual power plays in Port Charles. Cullum, meanwhile, is adjusting his own strategy. New information has begun to surface, fragments of research, altered data trails, unexplained funding transfers that suggest his operations are expanding rather than retreating. Instead of backing down under scrutiny, he is escalating. And that escalation is focused on Britt. What was once framed as medical advancement is starting to resemble coercion. Cullum is pressuring her into participating in experimental procedures under the guise of breakthroughs, but the pace is aggressive, the consent murky, the risks obscured. He presents it as necessity, as innovation, as the only viable path forward. But Jason sees the pattern. Britt is being cornered. The danger is rising because Cullum is no longer acting defensively. He is pushing boundaries, accelerating trials, demanding results. The more pressure he feels from outside forces, the more reckless he becomes inside the lab. Britt's health, her autonomy, her safety, they are becoming secondary to Cullum's ambition. And Jason understands something critical. If Cullum believes Britt holds the key to his success, he will not hesitate to sacrifice her stability to achieve it. This creates a volatile shift. Jason's mission to save Britt is colliding directly with Cullum's need to control her. Every move Jason makes to gather evidence or intercept communication increases the risk of exposure. If Cullum suspects interference, he may tighten his grip further, isolating Britt, accelerating procedures, eliminating perceived threats. The city has seen violence, conspiracies, political manipulation, but this is different. This is controlled harm masked as progress. And Jason knows that if he miscalculates even once, the consequences will not be temporary. Britt's life could become collateral damage in a war disguised as medical advancement. The clock is ticking, and both men are adjusting their strategies in silence, inching closer to a collision that could turn Port Charles into the epicenter of something far more dangerous than anyone anticipated. Chase refuses to back down from his campaign against Michael, and that relentless pursuit is beginning to twist the emotional fabric of everything around him. What started as a determination to expose what he believes is the truth has slowly turned into something more obsessive, more personal. Each accusation he levels, each confrontation he initiates, feels less like justice and more like desperation. The problem is not only that he is attacking Michael, it is that he is doing so at the cost of his own stability. In trying to control the narrative, he is losing control of himself. The ripple effect is impossible to ignore. As Chase doubles down, the storyline itself begins to shift into unpredictable territory. Allegiances fracture, motivations blur. What was once a contained conflict now spreads outward, dragging others into its chaos. Michael becomes more defensive, more strategic. Those around him are forced to choose sides. And the tension escalates beyond a simple rivalry. It becomes a war of pride, ego, and wounded identity. At the center of the madness stands Brooke Lynn. The growing strain between her and Chase is no longer subtle. She watches him unravel, sees the anger consuming him, and realizes that the man she believed in is slipping away. Their arguments intensify, no longer about isolated incidents, but about who Chase is becoming. The more he fixates on Michael, the more distant he grows from her. Trust erodes, communication collapses. Love becomes overshadowed by frustration and disbelief. This is where things turn truly volatile. If Chase cannot pull himself back from this edge, the fallout will not be limited to professional consequences. It will devastate his marriage. Brooke Lynn, already exhausted by scandal and instability, may reach a breaking point, and once that line is crossed, reconciliation becomes unlikely. What makes the situation feel almost insane is how quickly it is spiraling. A personal vendetta is reshaping relationships, altering loyalties, and destabilizing what once felt solid. If Chase continues this path, he may succeed in damaging Michael, but he risks destroying his own life in the process. In Port Charles, obsession rarely ends quietly. It explodes.